right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for waiting. DTEC is a great place, but sometimes it's a little bit tricky getting the parking and the directions sorted. So appreciate your patience. My name is Ali. I'll give you a little tiny background about myself. I'm full-time faculty at the American University of Sharjah. I fell into blockchain, got introduced to Marwan now 6-7-ish years ago, I think. So I trained under him, essentially. And it's just been amazing to see how the blockchain space in the UAE and Dubai has grown over the years. And we've seen the hypes come and go, the buzzwords come and go. We've seen companies throw out a press release with the term blockchain and bump their stock value 6%. We've seen it all. I think one of the things that we discuss a lot in our circles is what's going on. Is it real? Is it gonna stay? Why did somebody pay this many millions for a picture of a monkey? The discussion is still ongoing. And with any new technology, we always find early adopters, early experimenters, and then we always find it to be treated like the Wild West. Where you're not necessarily doing productive things, but you're experimenting with what can be done. But when the dust settles, you get to see that they're, generally speaking, not always, but we definitely saw this with blockchain, and now we're going to kind of tangent into NFTs. We saw that there was use, there was proper use, and not just theoretical use cases. We saw proper use, we saw great application. The UAE government has adopted blockchain in a lot of different ways. Today's discussion, and we were able to put together a very interesting panel with diverse backgrounds. Sometimes we have the tech guys only, sometimes we have the art guys only, sometimes we have the cowboys only. So I think we got a very nice panel. I'm going to ask them to briefly introduce themselves, and then we'll kind of just jump right in.
Hello everyone. Sorry about the awkward kind of seating position. I don't want to give you my back actually, but anyways, my name is Marwan Zarouni. I'm the CEO of Dubai Blockchain Center, which is an impact business. The aim of which is to create an ecosystem for blockchain here. Also bridge the gap between the industry and the government department on technology and the value take from it, not the hype and the headlines and the negative connotation that it actually precedes any kind of crypto or blockchain project. That being said, I also dove into this industry headfirst by trying everything out, everything from mining to NFTs to now metaverse and everything in between, including DeFi, GameFi, and everything. I literally learn by doing, and I also partner with the best people in the industry to make sure that our experience is genuine, it's gradual, it's very organic, and that we get the best of both worlds. Understand the concept, try it, fail, and fail quickly, but fail with the best attitude towards making things tangible, towards the best attitude to succeed, basically. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marwan. Hi everyone, my name is Amrita Sethi, and I'm the first NFT artist in Dubai, the UAE. And I'm the creator of my own art genres called the sound bites and the afro bites. To its core, my art is all about telling stories through sound, art, and technology. So I first record a name, I capture the shape and structure of the sound wave, and then I draw images to match that. I then layer on things like augmented reality, virtual reality, and other experiences, really to help kind of bridge this gap between, I would say, the physical art world and the digital art world, which leads very beautifully into the world of NFTs.
Thank you. So I'm partner and head of product at Augmentation X. We are a digital experience agency, and just in a nutshell, what we focus on is working with semi-governmental entities, with governments, as well as with large corporates, and enable them to transform what they have as traditional communications into unique experiences that engage their stakeholders. So basically, with this being said, digital innovation and visual communications has always been a key focus in our work, and we've been looking over the past 12 to 16 months in integrating new verticals such as NFTs, AR, VR, and 3D spaces, with me personally having taken the lead on the most exciting part, which is the NFTs.
Hi, my name is Ghizlan, Guenez. and I'm the co-founder of the Modist and Queen Mode. The Modist is a marketplace in the luxury fashion space that caters to the niche of modest dressing. It's a $44 billion market with no players at all. And so that's the market we serve. We serve it globally. 35% of our market is the US, and it's American Western women buying modest dressing, and 35% is the region. The Modist launched in 2017 and harnessed a beautiful community of women and men who love the values that we stand for, which is, the overarching value is empowerment of choice. So whatever you choose as a way of living or a way of dressing, you should feel empowered to exercise that. And because of that value, we've harnessed a beautiful community that connected with the Modist as a brand beyond just a fashion destination. And during COVID, we had a difficult time and had to close the business because we were fundraising and our investor got impacted. So we closed, and when we did that, actually we saw a support and reaction from our community that we hadn't anticipated. We knew how engaged they were, but not to that extent. And so we decided to go back and relaunch the Modist about 5 months ago, but launched also with a Queen Mode, which is the NFT collection that is bringing utility and bringing benefits to the community of the Modist as a way for us to actually go even closer and be closer to that community of women and men.
Hi guys, how you doing? I'm Simon Hudson. I'm the founder and CEO of Cheeze.com. Cheeze is a platform that's helping photographers bring their NFTs onto the blockchain. We started the business in November 2020. We've been building a team, building a company, fundraising, and the idea is that if you imagine all of the phones that we see and the digital DSLRs that we see, currently those images are not on the blockchain. So when we looked at joining into this industry, we were exploring the blockchains that were available. And as you probably know, if you're in this room and you're interested in blockchains, you'll know there's different blockchains. You have Ethereum, Solana, Flow, etc. So I emailed the CEO of Apple Labs and I said, hey, we're building a platform, bringing photography on the blockchain. Anyway, he replied and cut me a check. So for the last 2 years, we've been building Cheeze. It's on the Flow blockchain. We've been partnering with some pilots and doing some beta testing. And in the next month, we're going to be able to show you the photography that we've got. We've got some amazing satellite photography. And if you've ever watched a keynote from Apple, if you watched it last night, you'll see the camera is the focus. So lots of exciting things coming. The key is to just really bring all the metadata from that photo on chain. I'm based here. We have a team remotely around the world. And I'm just, glad to be here, so thank you for having me, and nice to see all some smiley faces tonight.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much. As you can see, a very diverse amount of panelists. Marwan, don't complain about a chair. At least you got one. Making me stand. Let me ask the audience, how many of you know what NFTs are? I'll change the question. You know what NFT stands for? Non-fungible tokens. How many of you understand how it works? Interesting. How many of you think it's just hype or fake? Okay, good audience.
That's not just a because
That's what I'm just gauging to find out. And if one or two of you in the audience can share, what are you hoping to learn from today? I mean, I could hang around with these guys and talk for hours about stuff.
I think I wanted to see more of the utility. So when you asked the previous question, if it's real or fake,
What's the
hype,
utility? Yeah.
Right now it is hype because it doesn't have real utility that I've seen. So I want to see that.
Yeah.
I would like to see what's other use cases better than arts.
Outside of the art space, yes, great. Anyone else?
Actually, we could have taken a video as an NFT.
Yes, well, actually, our previous event that we did, we issued the training certificates as NFTs. So there are a lot of use cases, but use cases doesn't always mean use. And we've literally gone through this cycle with the whole blockchain. The year that blockchain was the buzz, the year that Bitcoin and blockchain separated in people's minds. Oh wait, it's not one and the same. So we've kind of seen this happen. So, and I thought this would be a great time to get a panel. I know there's a lot of interest and curiosity. All right, we're gonna jump right in. Anybody, feel free to answer. Do you think we are over the buzz phase, or we still got some of that happening?
NFTs, the first use case, of course, and the most hyped one was where the money was at the moment, which was in digital art. Of course, one of the biggest artists jumping on this bandwagon and releasing his art as a collection, a huge collection, with a huge hype campaign as well, with really good marketing, and the flagship, art piece, which was the 5,000, arts being sold as one, and getting $60+ million supposedly, is really what kicked off this whole story about NFTs. NFTs were used as a standard way before that, but without having this kind of a marketing push. There was not that much use for it. Not a lot of people were understanding the value of it as well. That being said, every industry, every kind of new technology, the first phase is always who realizes the value and utilizes it first, gains the whole benefits. Like the early bird gets the worm, and all these other examples. But I think more so right now, the social aspect is where the value is. And we've seen this with the art. The more fans the artist has, the more chance of success he would have as an NFT artist as well, because it translates to social very quickly. And we've seen the meme coins as well as another thing that has absolutely no value, but the social aspect was everyone understands the meme, everybody gets it, and that's why if everybody buys, a small piece or one amount, a small amount, still, and the overall picture makes a lot of money. Now we've seen also with utility tokens, a lot of people saying now the new kind of hype is something called meme chains. So some utility with the social aspect, proposing some kind of a utility, even though utility is limited, still the overall impact is huge because of the numbers that it added together. So we'll continue to see that. Of course, the hype is not going to die. Every once in a while, you see a new kind of trend coming up as well. So story of our lives, but there's people like Amrita here putting a spin on something new, how you use the actual technology to propose some kind of new value or new perspective. And this is the kind of things that we actually should work towards. It's not utility for the sake of using the technology, which is NFT, but rather what are the new cases that were not there before that we can use the NFT as a pivot on.
I just want
No, I
to
totally agree with you. Beautifully said, and thank you so much. Do you want to go second?
you go first, ladies first.
Okay, well, I'll just talk about it really from the, kind of sort of my journey, right? In terms of obviously has the buzz, come and gone. And I mean, I was there when there was no buzz. I discovered NFTs during COVID, during lockdown, and I really just stumbled across it because with my own sound bites, I was looking more for a kind of more technological way to bring my art to a dynamic form, which I was being limited by a 2D canvas. So just as an artist, I was like being frustrated with what I got as a tool, and I wanted to use technology more with a tool brush. And then that's how I found NFTs. My background is I'm a bank and turned artist, so it was very easy for me to understand the concepts of blockchain. But I know that this is something that normal people, just artists themselves, struggle with the concept of NFTs, blockchain, and how that translates to their art. But the way I did it was just nurturing my artistic style and using technology to enhance it. And the way I kind of did that was then I got the opportunity to paint a very big mural. Actually, it's one of the world's largest on the side of the DIFC. So I do encourage you guys to go check it out. And literally about 3 or 4 days before I finished this mural, I was like, well, you know, and the mural actually says Future NFT Dubai. And this was at a time where, you know, this was like last year where it was so nascent. It was a very small group of us who were, you know, who were in this space. And I was there painting. I painted a MetaMask man, or, you know, for those of you who know, it's like a wallet, you know, new concepts, you know, CryptoPunks in the Arab form, and, you know, Bitcoins and Ethereums on the side of effectively a centralized financial system. And I'm there purporting sort of a very DeFi blockchain world. But I thought, like, what can I do to actually bring this more to life, to be able for people to experience it? And hence, you know, the introduction of sort of things like augmented reality. And, you know, I think that as we kind of going from this space to that space, we need to take people on the journey, and experiencing art is a very good way to go for it. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you know, from nobody understanding NFTs, we then had this rise of these 10,000 NFT collections that would come up. And this started to become a lot more about, you know, community, about utility. And then, you know, I'm sorry, but to put my banking hat on, it became very quickly about trading. And it became very quickly about how much money can we make, you know, how fast. You know, a lot of the time there was no utility, or there was promised utility just to kind of get the, you know, that kind of thing up and running in a very wild, wild west way. And then, yes, it crashed just like the penny stocks did in the 1980s, or whatever the case is, because of the lack of regulation. You know, whatever you say about regulation, and I know Dr. Marwan, you're very, you know, into this, is that it forces it to be looked at from the point of view of the consumer. And so I think that, you know, the buzz has dropped because, you know, it went into a bit the mainstream because people are attracted by the money and the honey. And so a lot of people who didn't understand the space came in. I think there was a bit of a crash. But I think the people who are here to build this, like everybody on this panel here, is looking now to build sustainable long-term, you know, understanding within this. And when you say that you're building a community, you're actually building something which will add utility. And, you know, just looking at what Ghizlan is doing in terms of Queen Mode and really creating an amazing community of women, or what Simon's building in terms of, you know, having, like, actually taking photography to the next level, is, I think that what we want to do is fundamentally change the way we organize society, the way we interact with each other, and the way communities actually are formed in a world where we are now no longer moved to one country, and we all live in so many different countries, and there's no more boundaries.
So just coming back to the question in regards to the utility and what the future of NFTs are, the way that I look at it and the conversations I have with my friends are, it's a bit like an extension that we're already used to, like .mp3, .jpeg, .pdf. If you think of the JPEG, so JPEG stands for Joint Photography Expert Group, which came about in 92-93. And it was companies like Canon, Mitsubishi, Sony that all came together to try and find a way to take the negative and the photo and compress it in a way that it could be shared easily. Because if you imagine before 92-93, if we all went on holiday together and took photos, and Amrita said, hey Simon, can you send me the photos? I'm not just going to send it on WhatsApp. I'd have had to go to the shop, I'd have printed it out, I'd have had to post it or deliver it. So Joint Photography Expert Group came JPEG. So if you remember at the beginning, people were like, oh, can you send me the JPEG? Then the same thing happened with music. If you go back to when I was listening to Backstreet Boys and I had my CD, I would have had to burn it or copy it to then give it to Amrita or anyone else on Backstreet Boys. But then MP3 came, which meant that I could then just send it as a link. Now, NFT is the same. I mentioned to you about Dapper Labs. So Dapper Labs is founded by a guy called Rohan. Rohan's become a good friend, and they actually came up with the concept of CryptoKitties, if anybody knows that. It's one of the first projects. And they actually coined the term NFT, because back then, they were building fungible tokens, and they were like, this is just a non-fungible token. They called them digital tradables and all of this. He's got a great podcast and he used to listen to. And he was just saying that NFTs stuck. But then, like Amrita said and Dr. Marwan said about this hype, all became around NFTs. And NFTs became positive and became negative. But the truth is, .NFT is a compression of ownership. That's all it simply is. We talked about, tickets, we talked about certificates. If I go and buy some tickets to Westlife, which I have bought, and I want to send them to Amrita or to anybody on this stage, well, that's not good. And right now, I have to go online, buy them, I get sent a PDF or an Eventbrite link, and I then have to email them to her. She prints them out, puts them on her phone, and then goes and shows them. But if that was an NFT, I can just simply send it her, and that's the transfer of ownership. So if you think of the steps for the ticket, online, buy, download, print, give, scan, I can just go boom, send to wallet. The same with title deeds, the same with car logs, the same with Skywards miles, whatever it might be. So my view on it is that, especially when you're in the photography industry like we are, people keep coming to me, especially when you're raising money, and investors are like, why is anybody going to want to put their photos on the blockchain? And I'm like, why do you use JPEGs? Because it's the same, technology is just evolving. So that's my view. NFTs is really an extension. I think we'll start to see tickets.NFT, the same as we see tickets.pdf. Soon we won't start saying NFT, the same as I don't say, hey, can you send me the JPEG? I'm saying, can you send me the photo? So that's my take on it.
Thank you very much, guys. And I appreciate you bringing up some old school references. Just for I see some young faces in the back. Just so you understand, you were able to take a CD and take out the song. One song was about 45, 55 megabytes in size. MP3s were able to compress them to 2.5-ish, 3 megabytes. And my days, dial-up days, that took 8 to 10 minutes to download, to listen to a 2-minute song. You guys now stream at 4K, 8K video content. So thank you for JPEGs and GIFs and all of these old guys who learned how to compress and do fantastic stuff. You know what's interesting? I was having a conversation with a friend just last week, and in it we were trying to understand what is it really revolutionary? Is it something that's changed? And one of the things that Simon's actually just touched on that reminded me. One of the things that we discussed was that NFTs essentially is going to do what email did. So when email came about, we got rid of regular post for a massive extent. We got rid of the fax machine to a huge extent, and we switched to electronic mail. It was near instant, it was near secure, and NFTs are essentially doing that for digital ownership, or not even digital, ownership as a whole. I can technically give you my house, I can sell you my house off an NFT, because that NFT will be a token representation of the house. So I think there's a huge application, and whoever you talk to, especially the guys who are a little bit more on the tech side, they get very excited in discussion. There's huge potential for application. But what I kind of want to drill down, and you're going to find me very annoying with this today, and I'll go back to something me and Marwan always talk about, and then you mentioned regulation. The other side of that coin for me is education. So we've understood a long time ago that most of the problem was a lack of education, and then when people figured out how to do something, it was regulation. I need blockchain. For what? I don't know. I was told I need blockchain. So many people we met over the years with that same mindset mentality. But I want to drill down. I want to talk to you guys about what are you doing with it? You talked about how you were able not just able to put your art up, but you were able to do it in a new way that essentially wasn't really possible before without the tech that existed. But Ghizlan, I haven't heard from you. Tell me a little bit more about your project. Tell me a little about how it works. Talk to me about where the value comes in.
I think what you were saying about NFTs and what a lot of people, not those who are in the space, but mainstream, think about it as just the JPEG that sells for $1 million. And this is part of why there was so much hype, because they can't understand why would a photo cost that much. But what happened basically cleaned up a little bit the space, and now people are looking for real, tangible utility. And I'm not talking about, of course, those who appreciate art. I'm talking about, again, mainstream. And I talk about our community is, if I'm buying this NFT, like, what is it? Why am I buying it? Why do I need to actually learn about this entire space and, you know, understand it, which is not the easiest given all the jargon, given, you know, the way that it's explained, to buy that NFT. What we've noticed is that when you actually start talking practically about what you get when you buy an NFT, it makes understanding it so much easier. What we're doing with NFTs actually is, for us, it started with the community, not with the NFT. It started when my co-founder Hajar and I were working on a deck to relaunch our business, as I mentioned earlier. We had a page where we wanted to connect with our community even, you know, more. And that page had a few examples of things we wanted to do to kind of bring them closer. So there was gamification and squad shopping and platform and what we wanted to do on the site. And then when we were exposed to the NFT technology, it was super clear to us that this technology is going to enable us to deal with a pain point in the business, which is that engaging on social media is not enough. This community that has helped us build our brand and business can go to the next level in terms of the connectivity with us, that can start adding value not only to our business but to them as well, and thereby creating this value add cycle between all of us stakeholders in it. And so what we did is, as I mentioned, we started Queen Mode, which is an NFT collection, and what it does is, the first part of it is that, I mentioned the mission earlier, which is the education, but the first part of it is that by buying it, you access an exclusive club of women and men who are like-minded, who align on the mission, but also who explore opportunities, synergies, and are there for one another. And that community exists. This is not theoretical. You're part of that group, and so on. And what we've seen in that community is that there's a certain type of profile that there is there, and it's predominantly women, and it's influential women. We're talking about investors, we're talking about owners of businesses, entrepreneurs, engineers, mothers, and so on. And so what we've done is, one part of the utility links to our Web2 business, which is the Modist, and it's it includes things like up to 25% lifetime discount on the Modist, which is very relevant for a woman who loves fashion. Actually, an entire experience that is different from what anyone else who visits the Modist. So if you link your NFT to the platform, you land on a different page and have a different experience altogether. Fashion events and so on. But then the other part, which came of utility, which came from seeing the community, because it's another interesting thing about Web3 is that you really need to be agile to respond to what the community wants. And because of the profile of our community members, we have introduced a utility whereby we give exposure to the businesses that the community members own. And so their products and services become part of the utility that we offer to the community itself. Thereby, you are allowing them that stage to evolve their business, thrive, sell, maybe explore access to capital, synergies, but then at the same time, the community is getting access to special discounts or experiences and so on. And that's just two parts. Of course, there's also the philanthropic aspect, which gets voted on by the community and everything else. So I think for us, what is relevant is the tangible aspect of the utility, which is very relevant for our community. And then after that comes the part of, the more we do, the more we collaborate, the more we introduce utility, the more that token, which is an asset sitting somewhere that can be traded, the value of it is increasing. That's the icing on the cake for us.
Sounds great. Tough question. Why can't you just make a Facebook group?
How?
That's basically, I think, this question. So again, it comes down to what Simon said. So it's your access. So I'll just explain what the concept of NFT is for those who are not technical. So an NFT is nothing but a certificate of ownership that's sent to your wallet address. So now everybody that wants to know who owns this certificate can easily search for it on the blockchain, basically. So you have immediately a public ledger showing who owns this. Not only that, if I wanted to, whether it is from the community or from outside the community, I wanted to send people gifts or something, I don't have to be a member of Facebook, first of all. I don't have to be, invited or not invited to give them utility. I can do a drop for them anonymously. So anonymity is one aspect of it. Availability of information, who bought it is another one. How many he bought, transparency as well is another aspect. Who bought it, how many they bought, what traits that NFT has. Because a lot of times you have 10,000 collection or 5,000 or more. And each one is unique because it has certain traits, and those are public information as well. The history of who bought it, who sold it, the whole ledger of the whole history of that NFT is there. A lot of these aspects could be private or could be accessible without signing up for something. That could be providing NFTs is much more utility than the Facebook group or a Twitter subscription list. For example, if somebody subscribes to your Twitter and then unsubscribe himself, you will not know if he was ever a part of that community. But if you bought that NFT at any point, you will know that at a certain point he had that NFT. And a lot of other aspects, but you see how the technology makes it permanent, kind of a stamp in your wallet that is public.
Thank you.
Let me add a little bit more context, maybe from the other side, from the corporate world and the government world as well, and the governmental entities. So basically, the question is whether to do it as an NFT or to do it any other traditional means, maybe. So when we look a little bit, let's say 12 months to maybe 6 months back, everyone that we've been working with, so I'm speaking about these organizations like AGM, Dubai Chamber, Emirates BD, etc. They've been coming to us, okay guys, so you always do all these innovative means of how we connect to our stakeholders. And we want to understand better the NFTs and the metaverse as well, and to see, number one, if and how this is going to impact our business, and if and how we should also enter this space. So I think that for us, in order to really understand whether an organization does need to go this route or to stick more to the traditional means, is really by drawing the line and saying, what is your strategic objective? What do you want to achieve? Is it that, and we were discussing earlier with Simon as well, do you want to be perceived as a pioneer, as an innovator, and that's why you want to venture in this space? Is it that you want to engage your existing audience in completely new ways, like Ghizlan is doing, for instance? Do you want to tap into a next generation of consumers? And here I always become the example of Gucci, that basically issued as NFTs wearables for avatars. So with this, they added a new product, a new revenue stream, and that's value back into the company. So basically, I think that these are things that we need to keep in mind. And going to your point, Ali, about education, it is crucial because whenever there is such a curve and a hype that is defined a lot on unsustainable revenues in a way, as it was on the generative art and all these projects that we've seen the hype being formed on, education is key to really try and balance everything a little bit. And to go back to the earlier point, what we see now essentially is a market correction. And we see how everything gets filtered, and from all that noise, the real and actual use cases that are here to stay are going to shine more brightly in the following period.
Thank you. A follow-up on that, and again, I keep reflecting back to early blockchain days because again, it's like deja vu for me all the time. Are you, the name for anybody, any of the panelists, are you feeling when you're talking to industry and corporations that they are genuinely looking at NFTs to provide them with a value-added solution to something? Or is it, hey, we want to do something with NFTs, what do you think we can do? But that's a big difference.
I think it's a mix between the two probably. When the hype was at its height, let's say January, end of last year, beginning of this year, every single person that we've interacted with, and I'm not speaking just our clients and partners, but also broader circles, they wanted to do something about it, just because everyone else was doing it. But now, what is maybe really important to see is, as I mentioned earlier, why is it that you actually want to do it? And what we are seeing in our projects mostly is two areas. One, if we look at governments and large corporations, it's mostly related to brand building. So literally related to brand value, how can we add more value to our stakeholders? How can we do something different? How can we be essentially perceived as pioneers in the space? When we look at the consumer brands, on the other hand, these are the ones that look for the revenue aspect. So they want to create new revenue streams, basically.
Thanks. Simon, I'm going to pick on you for a second. And circling back to the earlier question, I'm a photographer, and there are so many great platforms with massive, massive reach where I can put my content and sell it. Why am I coming to you?
So, what kind of photographer are you? Are you a professional photographer? Are you an Instagrammer?
Professional photographer with equipment that costs 80,000 dirhams, and I've been doing it for 20 years.
Okay, so this is a really interesting question. So, you've probably heard of Getty Images. So, what I like to do is I like to just email the CEOs of companies. So, I emailed the CEO of Getty Images and I said, my subject said, say cheese, because obviously the name of the company say cheese. Anyway, he responded, he replied. And the question I had to him was, when are you going to bring photography from Getty to NFTs? His response was, we're already building a platform. And I was just like, oh, well, maybe there's something that we can do, try to get in there. He said, well, what can you offer? I said, well, take an example. Let's just say we've got the Dubai fireworks, as an example, New Year's Eve. I said, if we put out a message to our community and say, hey, if you are taking photography of the fireworks in Dubai, you can upload it, but we need to prove that you took that photo. So that's the big difference as to where NFTs and blockchain come in. Because if I take a photo on my phone now and I swipe up, all of the metadata is on that photo. The location, the aperture, the pixel size, and that's what in Apple's keynote yesterday they were focusing so heavily on. So then when I said to the guy at Getty Images, I said, well, rather than you building a platform, why don't we just use the APIs that you already have and plug into this New Year's Eve Dubai firework collection? So you as somebody who's got 80,000 dirham equipment that wants to upload your images can be alongside the Getty Images people. Getty Images is a very niche market, and Getty Images takes between 50 and 60% commission. Whereas if you upload it, you're in control, and that's really what Web3 and NFTs is about. It's about putting the ownership in the hand of you. So rather than you having to apply to Getty Images to then get your images seen on Getty Images and these wider platforms and pay a premium, you can upload them to our platform, which you're more than welcome to do, and then we can then display them. But the key thing is that the community chooses. The community then chooses. And also, there were 3 trillion photos taken on iPhones, just iPhones alone last year. If you look at any concert, any event, everybody's like this, taking photos. If people can, rather than putting on Instagram, can actually put them online and potentially make money from that, that's the market that we're going for. So we do have an offering for people who have professional photography, but our market is really the people that are snapping and minting and actually seeing and putting the photos into the hands of the world. Before I hand over, because I know I like to talk a lot, the last example I give is at the Formula One. I don't know if anyone watches Formula One. If you watched the Silverstone race, which was 2 or 3 months ago, on the first corner there was a really bad accident where a car flipped and it flew into the grandstand. The photographs that were online immediately all came from people's iPhones. it was 12 to 24 hours later that they were then published from Getty Images in the newspapers and in the magazines. But those images circulated like wildfire across social media of those accidents, and nobody really knew who the source was. Whereas if you could actually put them on chain and see that that person is in that geolocation at that time with that metadata on his phone, then we can prove that it was his, and then all of those reshares and all of those royalties that he would have got, he would have benefited from. So that's why you should come to Cheeze and not to Getty Images.
Thank you for that. And what Simon is too nice to tell you, because Getty Images might be a client of his, is they actually got sued a couple of years ago by a photographer who Getty Images sued for using pictures that were actually her own. So they, through their whatever search engine and whatnot, took her pictures, posted them, and then sued her for using her own pictures. And then she countersued, and then it became really funny. But I think the core thing, and at the bottom of all of this is, as soon as you can lock in the original source ownership, the game changes. And this, you're looking at exactly all the various applications that bottom line to this.
It's not only the source, it's also the time.
Yeah.
There's a very distinct element here, exact element, which is timestamp. So even if you both could prove that this came from your phone, because if he steals your phone, you can prove that it came from your phone. There's other forensics aspects of it, but time nobody can argue with. And if it's placed on the blockchain, 100% is not disputable, because it's already there. Precedents, like you cannot go back in time and put something on the blockchain 10 minutes ago. It's already done. So a lot of times, like with this incident with the F1, if there were two people that claimed that the image came from the F1 and the same XF information and the picture was exactly the same, nobody can prove that they were the one taking the picture. Of course, there are other forensics where you can get who took the picture from, but if they were actually found on Getty Images, the time will determine who shot it first and who put it up first.
If I could just add to that as well, I know that we've just been talking about photography, and everybody thinks about the photography of, say, celebrities or of landscapes, but the real power in this is that everything starts with a photo. If you go and rent an apartment, buy a car, buy a handbag, a pair of shoes, it's all a photo. So the reason why we focus so heavily on the name Cheeze and on the photography industry is that, you know, if you're going to sell fashion, for example, and you're going to have a beautiful collection of handbags and shoes, you can then go and purchase that photo. You can unlock the physical asset if you wish, or you can maybe just want to buy it to have a digital flex, to say, hey, I've got this, like what Amrita's been doing with her art. She's got digital goods, but she's also got physical goods, but the person has a choice. And I think that we'll be amazed at how many people actually just want a digital result, not a physical, because they spend all their time online.
Great, fantastic, guys. Talk to me a little bit about the difficulties you faced. What are some of the hurdles you came up with? What are some of you had to butt heads with people, or with tech, or what was the trouble? If somebody's gonna think about doing something, what can we learn a little bit from the pain points that you experienced?
I'll go into that. I mean, obviously being the first NFT artist here, it was a very lonely place for a while, right? And so just kind of getting people to firstly just understand what is NFTs. I mean, at the beginning, I wasn't really even calling them NFTs. I was always thinking I actually referred to them officially. Is this better? Yeah, I was actually always referring to them as digital art because I never thought that NFTs would be a word. And then it was only until, as Dr. Marwan said earlier, that piece for $69 million came into effect, and that kind of effectively created a massive push notification, I would call, to the masses, right? And then all of a sudden everybody wanted to know what NFTs were, and then that journey started. I think the biggest difficulty, I would say, from an artistic perspective, but I also think just as what is happening with NFTs full stop, is people's inability to get rid of this concept that you have to have a physical item. So for example, like let's take art. Obviously, traditionally art, you would have a painting, you put it up in your house and you look at it and everybody who comes, only the people who come to your house can see it, or you take a photo of it, put it onto Cheeze and all the people can actually see it. Technically it won't work because you can't sell somebody else's stuff. Anyway, that's technical. But the whole point is that people just, that's how people normally experience art. So one of the biggest things that people just can't get over with NFTs, with art, is like, how am I going to hold my piece of art? Like, why would I just want a JPEG as a piece of art? And so for me, that's been kind of the hurdles of doing that. I can go blue in the face, giving education, giving workshops, doing little sound bites or bite-sized tutorials on my Instagram and my social media to try to explain to people, why you would want an NFT as an art piece. But I kind of understood that people aren't there yet. And so I kind of sit in this like Web 2.5 at the moment. And I'm creating this bridge where, here's your physical artwork or your physical fashion piece, art piece, and it has this amazing depth and dimension. It's got augmented reality. It feels new. You can go into virtual reality to experience it. So people are getting into it, and they're engaging in it, and they're seeing that NFTs are unlocking certain creativity. But then I'm giving the option that if you then want to buy an NFT of it, you can do. So you can buy the physical artwork, or you can buy the physical art fashion piece. But then afterwards, you can choose to buy an NFT of it as well. And if you did buy the NFT, then you would then become part of my bike club, my community, which then gives you access to all of the NFT projects that I'm working with. It gives you access to Queen Mode and all the wonderful things that Ghizlan's doing there. It gives you access to Sign as well. So all of a sudden, you can have the option of having just a physical item or something with an NFT, and that's unlocking a whole level of utility. And so you start to do it instead of just kind of telling people why this is going to change the world. You're showing people, and you're showing people by taking away the advantage of not having it. So you're working with consumer behavior, you're working with the way people see things. And I just wanted to actually address the point that you said earlier about Facebook, and why is it not the same as Facebook? Is that effectively what we're doing, and this goes a little bit deep, so just bear with me here a little bit, is that what blockchain and the NFTs in this world is doing is it's fundamentally reorganizing society. And let's take us back in the day when there was no transport. You couldn't fly from one place to the other. There were no cars and trains. What used to happen is you used to have the community around you, right? You would be like-minded in that. You would gather there, and eventually what you would do is you would have a flag, right? And you would have what you guys, things that you would have in common. But that flag or that sound was something that united everybody. And so, and obviously, as you know, some countries did better. The community banded together better, they organized themselves better, which meant that they became more developed countries, which made the currency that they had more, more valuable and all of that. And this is kind of what's happening here, is that we're creating communities, but the new flag is the picture of a bored ape. The new flag is a picture of a queen. The new flag picture, a flag is, a picture of a unicorn or potato, whatever it is. The point is that when the community members see that image, they know that they're part of that community. Now, where does the strength of the community come from? It comes from who's in it, how we're contributing to it, how we're growing that community. And then with that is where the token, and that's where the asset increases. So your NFT becomes like a financial asset or a coin, where all of a sudden, that's the currency. You want to be part of that community because they're really strong, because they've got all the top women. For example, in Queen Mode, I'm just on the WhatsApp group. You've got editors of Vogue magazine, the heads of women VCs around the world. You've got top artists, you've got everybody just women doing their thing. I mean, just that alone, I don't even need to go to anybody else if I want to leverage anything. I can just go to that group, and all of a sudden, the currency, the value that group has to me has gone up. And that's what this is all about. And that's why I'm very, very passionate about the fact that it's a real fundamental creation of a new level of society around us.
Just to add a little bit more, because all of Amrita's points on utility community are probably the strongest points around the NFTs. I think that in terms of difficulties in general, it all links back to education, because everyone relates to NFTs as generative art or digital art, and it stops there. However, the moment that we start to see more utility related to that proof of origination, proof of ownership, that's when we actually switch the curve. So basically, think of examples like, if I'm not mistaken, San Marino, the COVID certificates were issued as NFTs. That prevents forgeries, right? So examples like this, supply chain traceability, how can we use NFTs in order to drill down into the supply chain and see from where an item originated to where it reached, and whether all the sustainability aspects related to it are actually as the company has stated that they are, right? There are many other use cases that we can look at, but I think that that's where, again, going back to the primary point of the conversation, that's where we need to start. We need to start with education and drilling down to use cases beyond the surface that we've seen over the past 12 to 18 months.
Thank you. Talking about education, and this is very important to understand. So I teach at a university. I am surrounded by 18 to 23-year-olds forever. It's like fountain of youth. I'm the only guy that gets old. It works backwards for me. But what's interesting is that I can see that sample, and I can ask that sample size questions, right? So one of the interesting shifts that I've seen probably over the last 6 to 8 years is that these young adults are digital natives. They don't have the questions that we're talking about. Oh, how is it going to be like online? Oh my God, what's it going to be on? For them, it is online. It's already online. Online is their normal. So there's, in education, I can slice literally into two parts. One is getting over the fear of the online, and then it's, okay, now what can I do with it? But all of these young people, young adults, don't have that issue. My dad will not use online banking. He doesn't trust it. He still goes to the bank and deals with the teller. I'm like, are you for real? I'm like, Dad, I'll pay your electricity bill. No, I'll go to the bank. Like a bazillion people use online banking. It's not something that just popped up or we're not sure about it. So there is a difference in mindset, especially with these kids who grew up with technology around them. And they're not having the resistance that I think a lot of you guys have experienced. And you were seeing that not only is, I'm not worried about this. Tell me what can I do with it? Show me where the exciting things are. And I think over the last 2 years especially, you've started to see a lot of the actual utility unfold, which you guys talked about today, which was absolutely fantastic.